here so that I think most of you can see and give approval so that you know we are recording this session. And I believe I'll get a thumbs up that you can see my screen with the beginning slide that says Shared Strategies for Student Success. I am Debbie Fawcett, and I will be delivering the Tuesdays for Teachers session today for October 24th. And like I said to some of you who are already in here, I normally have a couple of other people helping. So today I'm going to tell you in full disclosure that my partner in crime, as we often disguise ourselves, Susan Pittman, is unavailable and won't be sharing the session with us today. But I have asked a couple of my friends and colleagues here to help. Number one, just let me know when I need to say something because a question has come up in the chat, because I don't look at that when I am presenting. It's too distracting. And I will take a breath ever so often and ask for some of those questions to be presented to me. Let's go ahead and get started. I think we've got something that's of interest to all of you and something Susan and I are glad we're having an opportunity to kind of reconnect and revisit and talk with you about how we move forward with professional development. It's very important to us, and I want to make sure that we are, both of us feel the need to kind of revisit and get this all up and going. Whoa. In a different track. Going to. All right, ladies, I'm hoping that you can hear me now. And if I could get a thumbs up for anybody who can hear me, I'd appreciate it. And let me open the chat. Okay, let's try to make a better start this time. I am Debbie Fawcett. I am with GED Testing Service. I am very happy to see so many new people joining us today, and we're going to talk about some of that. I'm going to back up just a second, make sure you know that we are in the right place. Shared strategies for student success for today's Tuesdays for Teachers. I am Debbie Fawcett. Some of you may be new and not know who I am. And I always, at this point in my career in adult education, I say I've just been around for a bazillion years, had the luxury of serving as the state director of adult education and GED testing in Louisiana for some 16 or 17 years. Prior to that, I was in local programs doing many things in adult ed at the local and central office level. And then I was moved to the Department of Education, where I had the pleasure of working with adult educators and also career and tech ed and many other programs that were a great passion for me in serving different underprivileged groups and underserved groups of people. I moved to the testing service about 13 years ago and have had many jobs within the testing service in that time. I now work primarily as the chair for professional development, and I directly work with the states of California, Arkansas, and Louisiana. But the professional development keeps me in touch with all of you across the country because we work with everything nationwide. I said earlier in this that we are recording, and I just want to make sure, I'm going to make sure we are still recording. Yes, we are. And we're going to go through a couple of facets here. So in today's session, we're going to talk about professional development, and I'm going to spend a little time on our new partner, With You, With Me. But on professional development, specifically, we're going to talk about what we have learned from you. And we're going to go over a little bit of the history about how we've started with our professional development back in 2014, what we picked up from the earlier years. We're going to help get you to help us guide our future plans for the sessions we will offer and the things we will know about in our future plans for PD. And we're going to talk about what are our next steps in planning GED testing service PD for 2024. And this is your opportunity to be very helpful in guiding us. Then we're going to spend the last part of the session about With You, With Me, which is our new partner. We're going to talk a little bit about what the program has to offer your students. And I think it's some very exciting opportunities. And primarily for me, it's because it's so tied to workforce development. And as a former classroom teacher, and we do keep up with what you're being required to do in WIOA, we want to make sure that we are helping you meet some of your requirements, not just to say how many people earned their GED, but how many can be tied to those IETs. And as a former teacher, I think there's some possibilities here, and we can look to that also. We're going to talk about the value of the learning preference assessment and what you may or may not choose to do with it, and some other opportunities for students to connect with technology apprenticeships. I think there's a lot of value in the program. I am particularly excited about the opportunities for students to connect with technology apprenticeships. And most of all, we're going to answer your questions at the end. So next, first, professional development. And as Susan and I talked about this and where we wanted to go, based on what we had learned from you all, it's almost like back to the future for us with professional development. and we'll explain it in these next few slides. I wanted to do just a little bit of a history, because I do know we have a number of people who are on this call who have not been a part of what we have done for a number of years. So I just thought I would kind of put a little graphic up here to help us remember where we were from 2012, when many of you, whether most states were with us as we were preparing to move for the new GED 2014 program. Well, now it's just the GED program. It's been out for 9 years, so it is our program. Prior to that, we were working on the old 2002 test series. But in those years leading up to the change in the test series, we spent those years from 2012 even into the launch in 2014. There was great angst, as there is always great angst anytime you are changing the test series, doing things a little differently. So most of the professional development that we were doing, it wasn't organized into Tuesdays for Teachers, but it was based on requests that we would get from state directors of adult ed, or some of our GED test administrators who understood that even the resources and the processes were changing as we moved to computer-based testing. So it was very important that we did a number of different types of content sessions. And we really didn't have the technology at the time that we have now. So a lot of these sessions were done on site. Very few were done using technology at the time, but they were content driven. They were also about new resources. We were redesigning the website, and we needed you to know about how we were redesigning it, to the student portal, to the educator and administrators portal, which we still have. But oh my goodness, those of you who have been with us from the beginning know how much richer and robust the website is for both our students and our educators. And most importantly, the tools and resources, which at the launch in 2014 were not nearly as robust and as many and as varied as we have now. There's a lot that needs to be said to train people for GED Manager. And in the states where you have access to GED Analytics, there's a lot that can be learned. Also, when we figured out that not just our test administrators who were the only ones who had access to GED Manager when we started in 2014, we heard educators loud and clear that they too needed access of some sort to student records, and how they could help drive improved student outcomes by having that information. So we organized and created Prep Connect, which is the educator's access to GED Manager. And all importantly, we wanted people to understand about the score report and how that could be used in moving forward. As we put the new test out there in 2014, it became abundantly clear to us that it wasn't a one-time shot. We had to keep moving all of these things forward. And so we decided we would do a more organized approach to professional development, and we coined Tuesdays for Teachers. I'd been a state director for years, and I knew that, and back in the day, Cheryl Keenan had Shop Talk, and it was a Wednesday once a month, and we knew it was there, and we knew to hone into it. And that was our idea, to create something for teachers and GED administrators if they wanted to participate. And that's how we designed Tuesdays for Teachers, and which we have done since 2015. I can go back and find our slide decks back to 2015. Over the years, we began strictly as content driven because teachers are most interested in knowing, what do I need for my students to know to pass this test? But we also used it every time we had more enhancements and more innovative ideas for GED Manager, for Prep Connect, for the score report. And the innovative things we would put on the website, we built and built and continued to build out. So we brought those innovative projects and things for you to know about to Tuesdays for Teachers. There were occasions where there were just special interest topics that we needed you to know about. Think about the online proctored test. We used some of our Tuesdays for Teachers sessions for the online proctored tests for information in those points and other hot topics. We all know that during the pandemic, or as we were moving into the pandemic, there was a need to bring information to you as quickly as we could find it. And that's what we started doing. We knew we had an audience in our Tuesdays for Teachers. Over the years, we have drifted and kind of enhanced what we did with Tuesdays for Teachers. And these are the things, the way we have moved out to it. What we have learned, and what Susan and I and the team at GED Testing Service, all of those who create the products and the tools and the resources, what we have learned is that we need very much to go back to some of the ideas that you had expressed in years past. And so when I think we are looking at 2024, that's what I call back to the future. And we base that title based on what we heard from you all. So let's talk about back to the future. And you can read this caption. We know that the testing service, this is all about our partners. Our Tuesdays for Teachers is about we at the testing service and you out there in the field. We listened to you. We heard lots of comments before the summer conference, and the summer conference with so many of you, 500 of us, really 600 all inclusive, gathered in one place was a great place for you to bend our ear and let us know what you'd like to see happen. And primarily what we heard, you requested more content-driven sessions. You wanted a train the trainer module to return to the summer conference. I know some of you don't know what that is, and we're going to discuss it. And we understand that in every state, we have a different mix, whether you've been with us for a long time or we are welcoming you back in some form to add the GED test. We also heard that you wanted more training in the use of the resources from the website, and that more training was needed in the use of some of those operational tools. And we heard that from both our GED examiners and from our educators, because these tools that can guide you are very important, but they're only worthwhile if you know how to use them. So the big check mark on the right means we listened and we want to comply and bring back to you the things we've heard that were important to you. More content-driven sessions and Tuesdays for Teachers, train the trainer module at the summer conference, more use of the resources, better training in using the resources from the website, and more training in the use of the operational tools. So to that end, this is what we heard from you, and here is what we know. And I sometimes have to tell ourselves that, gosh, why weren't we paying attention? We do know that we have two distinct groups now folding in with us. We have the jurisdictions who moved from the 2002 GED series to the 2014 GED series. In that group, though, we still have our seasoned adult educators and administrators, people like me who have been in adult education for many years, and we just made the transition from, Susan and I laugh, we were both around as we transitioned from the 1978 test to the 2014 test. Some of you have been around long enough to move at least from 2002 to 2014. So you had some experience with the GED. We also forgot, as we would think we had taught something all the way along, we think, okay, we've taught it, now we'll move on to working and studying something else. What we forgot and had to be reminded of by you was that there is fluid movement of new adult educators and administrators joining your states throughout the 9 years of the GED program. For some of those people, they were new to adult ed. And even if you had experience in teaching, adult ed is not like teaching in the K-12 system. So it's very important that we back up and begin to provide to you all a mix of starting with the basics to moving ahead for those who are more seasoned. For our more recent jurisdictions that we have welcomed back since the transition in 2014, some of you have only been with us for the last 2 to 3 years. Some of you are still transitioning to us. You too have some people that may have been, you've got seasoned adult educators and administrators. They may have been around for the 2002 series, but a lot has changed and they are not familiar with the program since 2014. I see that quite often in the states that we are working with to onboard, who are coming to add the GED back to their offerings because they came with the notions from 2002, something as simple as believing that a test administrator had to be a degreed personnel. That was true in 2002, not true with the computer-based test in 2014. So that was a reminder that although you may have seasoned adult educators, if you've been away from the GED since 2013, there's a lot that's changed, and we need to back up and make sure you're comfortable with those changes. We also have adult educators and administrators who have no experience with the GED. They were not around to know anything about the GED in 2002, the series that ended in 2013. And so they only have experience in other high school equivalency exams. And high school equivalency, good teaching is good teaching. But the ins and outs of the administration and the things that we look for and the differences in the test, we need to make sure everyone's comfortable with that who is new and coming on board. You also have the same fluid movement of new staff into adult education throughout the year. So we are being mindful of this as we move forward and make some of our decisions. Our professional development ahead, I kind of look at it in 3 buckets. And I'll take a little break and ask if there are any questions after we talk about these 3 buckets. Personally, and for what we do as an organization, we do have jurisdictional and national level offerings. We do that through the state conferences. We thank you for the invitations you provide to us to join you in your state conferences. We also have an abundant, excuse me, we have a wonderful partnership with COABE. I think we have 12 or 13 sessions approved in COABE. For those of you who remember the type of PD that we did, and we still do in some states, we used to conduct road shows where we would go out and do 3-hour, 4-hour workshops. We found that if we did more than 3 hours, it was almost mind-numbing. But we will work with you to make a visit to your state. Sometimes we can do it. Sometimes we need some help with the cost, but road shows were one type of professional development that we did quite often, and I did quite a number of them in California and several other states, and that can be done again. I think in today's environment, it would mean some support from you along with us in investing our time to make those on-site visits in some of the larger cities in your state. Rather than virtual or hybrid sessions, but the virtual or hybrid sessions we welcome. That is something we do quite a bit of, and it's very easy to say, can you do a session on math, or can you do a session on a particular part of the reasoning through language arts test? We can do that virtually, and people, I'm very happy that some of you actually use this offer, small group or local program PD specific. I say all the time, if you have or your consortia. It's really nice if you are in a type of consortia, or you can get together with several local programs and say, look, our teachers have a lot of questions. We're going to have our 1 hour of PD that we do once a month. Could you jump on a phone call with us and let them ask you some questions? Those are great for me and Susan because it keeps us in tune with where you are with your questions and helps us understand what we need to break down for you and perhaps provide a little more insight to. Our Tuesdays for teachers. Our next session and our last session for 2023 will be December 5th, 2023. Beginning in 2024, we will go back to our bi-monthly sessions every other month. The nice thing and what we are very excited about, we want to make sure that what we put on the schedule is driven by your preferences for what you want to know about. And I'm telling you right now that these are our tentative dates for the first 3 sessions of the year. If I can get you through May, that gives you a bit of a head start on where your challenges are. And then the next linchpin of our professional development is our annual GED conference. For those of you who have been to our annual conference, you know that we do, a full slate, 5 different slots with up to 7 concurrent sessions at each time. In this past conference, we had 49 different concurrent sessions. I think about, and we know the importance of replicating them or duplicating them so that you have some choices and you don't have a one shot or you miss it. I think of the 49 concurrent sessions, there were 28 individual or unique titles, and the rest of that was filled by offering it multiple times. So if you missed it at this time because you needed another session, you know what that's like when you go through a conference agenda. We also have the plenary sessions, and this year we are going back to doing a train the trainer track. And that train the trainer track, I'm going to give you more on all of this on some following slides. That is done by invitation. We do like to, any local person or any person may submit their names, but we are going to work through your state administrators, because what our hope is for a train the trainer track is that we get people who are seasoned or are good presenters or are very much interested in participating and sharing what they learned. If you've been in one of our train the trainer tracks, you know that it is a very intensive workshop. We will probably only focus on math and RLA in the train the trainer track, but we are going to make sure that in the train the trainer track, you're going to have time to attend some of the concurrent sessions. So if we don't touch on social studies or science directly or independently, there are times in the concurrent sessions where you can attend. So these are the things we are talking about as we look forward to professional development. These are the things we're going to ask for your help on. Now I'm going to see if we can go into a poll, Tuesdays for Teachers poll. Let's see if we can go into it, because this is how we're going to get some of our help here. Let me open this up and launch the poll, and I would like for you to help and answer some of these questions. I guess I'm going to say, can you see, let me shrink this down. Again, without anyone to help, it's really kind of hairy here. Let me launch the poll. The first question is, I am new, 1 year or less, to GED instruction. Can you see that? Can someone give me a thumbs up in the chat? Okay, If you can see the poll, I would love for you to answer that yes or no. Let's see. Right. Hope you can find your way to your computers. We're going to try to get the percentages up just a little bit. All right, let's see. I did not mean to end it there, guys. I'm so sorry. I will see if I can open that up again. Okay. Right, I'm going to leave this on just a little longer. The first one, I appreciate the answers there. We're trying to get a feel for the people who are attending. And I will tell you, if you're having difficulty with the poll, because I am not that seasoned in this, we are going to be putting this poll in our next Tuesdays for Teachers. So if you don't feel you have an opportunity here to answer, you will have an opportunity in the in session. As you can see, number one, I am new, 1 year or less. And for those who responded, only 17% have been here 1 year or less, and that's a sliding scale. Another one, how long have you provided GED instruction? Less than 2 years, 22%. 2 to 5 years, 24%. 6 to 10 years, 16%. We do have some seasoned participants on this call at about 40% who have been delivering over 10 plus years of adult ed instruction. So thank you. Now let's look down here. When it comes to Tuesdays for Teachers, I am most likely to attend sessions that focus on, we asked you to select two. I can see, thank you so much for the answers. It's really quite a nice spread here. About 60% of you are looking for strategies and activities for the classroom. 34%, how I can focus on my instruction. For methods of motivating students and keeping them engaged, I am not surprised to see nearly 50% on that, because we all know the most important thing is to motivate them to keep returning to our classrooms. And new programs that are available to me or my students through GED at 41%. Thank you very much. Now let's move on. I'd like for you to see the responses in number 4. I would really like to see more sessions that focus on RLA. Susan and I hear that a great deal, and it looks like the top 2 are reading basics, including vocabulary and comprehension, and then on the higher level reading skills. In other words, let's cover both ends of the spectrum, such as analysis and making inferences. That doesn't mean, oh, you can't see the results. Don't see the results. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I will call the results out then. My apologies. And once again, we're going to talk to Susan Pittman next week when she's in place to tell me all about the responses. I will read them on number 4. 52% reading basics, including vocabulary and comprehension. 67% higher level reading skills, such as analysis and making inferences, the thing that seems to give our readers the most trouble in earning their points. 33% have selected writing basics, including grammar and sentence structure. It's very important, and honestly, one of the ways that we point that we would expect students to be able to pull a point or so in their extended response, and 35% evidence-based writing for the RLA extended response for real life situations, 35%. Question number 5, I would really like to see more sessions that focus on math, especially, and we gave you a choice. And I am not surprised that math basics, including fractions, decimals, and percent, 16%. Almost the highest, of course, is the higher order math, such as functions, slope, and inequalities. And I almost would put that in the order of inequalities, then slope, then functions. That is at 45%. Helping students get past their fear and anxiety about math before testing, 36%. Again, I think that is a critical thing. I'm glad to see that as something that you in the field see as important as Susan and I see as important to talk about with our students. Number 6, I am new to GED instruction and need help understanding how the entire system works. Only 20%, and that's good to know. We're never sure how much time we need to spend on just explaining the architecture of the system and where you need to go and what you're looking for in materials. That was a yes at 22% and a no at 78%. Number 7, I am not so new to GED instruction, but things have changed and I feel a need for a refresher. That was almost equally divided. 49% said yes, 51% said no. Number 8, I would like to have a session that focuses on managing multiple levels of students in the same class. 73% of you responded yes. And I know that about 90% of us taught classrooms with every level in the world into it. I always marveled at the schools that were large enough to be able to differentiate instruction based on the lower level learner and the higher level learner. So I'm not surprised at that, and that is something we would definitely want to address. Number 9, last one. I know there are resources on the GED.com website. However, I have a hard time finding what I need. I would really like a session that provides information for me and my students. 62% of you said yes, 38 no. Again, one of our greatest frustrations is knowing that we have lots of great stuff. Lots of great stuff out there for you, but we have not been able to make sure you can all access it. So I'm going to stop the sharing here, which my friend tells me will get me back. Ooh, wow. Can you all see this save the date sign? And at this point, Jeannie or anybody else who is on there, if you would like to, if there are any questions that have come up or comments that I need to answer, please feel free to call them out to me. Hi, Jeannie, are you there?
Yes, you have one here from Carol Siebert, says lots of research on brain-based learning. How can we use that to get our adults learn to study in the most efficient way? How can we use to help with memory skills? Many adults have no idea how to use online resources independently. They cannot transfer out-of-date study skills to newer ways of learning.
Carolyn, I can always count on you to give me a thought-provoking question. And I am very happy to tell you that our guru for research, Ann Evers, is on this presentation. I'm going to ask you to send that directly to me because I think that fits into some of the information, one of the questions on professional development that we asked. it not so much directed toward test anxiety, but we could certainly fold that question and response into something. Carolyn, Carolyn has brought up a really good point. This survey, we did not intend for that to be the be all and end all of what we wanted to know about what you want to know about in professional development. And we would ask you, please, to email us, and our emails are at the end. You will have an opportunity to send us your other thoughts and comments, because this is really, it's critical for us in a couple of things. Number one, it is how we prepare for your sessions on Tuesdays for Teachers. But as you see the save the date up there, I'm sorry, and they disappeared. Sorry about the perhaps not getting you all the information you wanted on the results there, but we will make them available to you. Give me an email and I will have them and make them available. But the reason you're looking at the save the date is, I told you earlier, there's a cycle that we go through for presenting. And, we start with our Tuesdays for Teachers session. Susan and I have always considered our professional development cycle begins with our summer conference, because the summer conference sessions are a combination of things that have come to us throughout the year and the things we look forward to. And we're a little bit in the middle range of that, but I can tell you we are starting our discussions internally right now to have all of the concurrent sessions laid out for you before we send the letter out for save the date for the GED annual conference. And we expect that to be delivered to you in the first couple of weeks in February is what we're looking for, okay? But I wanted you to see the postcard placard because people ask about the date. And the next thing that didn't get on this postcard, but I asked, so because I know that's the next question, look at the bottom there. The hotel will be the conference hotel is the Westin Hotel Long Beach for rooms. And I am not sure if the sessions may be there. It depends on how many of you sign up. The Overflow Hotel will be the Marriott Long Beach. But when we talk about our session, how we look at PD, we've got the conference sessions that have, we've learned through the year from the previous conference is exactly what this session is about. What we heard you wanted, how do we put that into process? You're going to see some of what we have learned put into process in the first 3 sessions of the year. You will see more put into the summer conference, and a lot of the PD that we will do when you request things throughout the remainder of 2024 will be from what was presented at the annual conference. So that's kind of how we focus on it. COABE will have many of the things that we have learned from you. And so that's just a little insight into what we're looking at when we are looking at the professional development and how we will move it forward. When I talk about train the trainer, so you understand what our concurrent sessions are, how they're developed. Then we said we would have the plenary sessions. Well, those are more our leadership discussion and the big overarching things that we think are so important that we want everyone at the conference to hear. On the Train the Trainer session, I will tell you that we are looking, usually our conference will begin at midday on the 23rd, and it will end, at the midday on the 25th. If you are considering the Train the Trainer, you would have to be someone who comes in on the night of the 22nd, because we will start the Train the Trainer session on the morning of the 23rd. So that will be 2 full days plus the half day on the 25th. So that's where we're looking at. Let me see. I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm glad that Anne is on the call with us. And Anne, I'm going to make you a co-host in case you need to add anything. When I can find your name over here, just hang on. Participants. My colleague Ann Evers is always doing research for us and looking ahead and bringing to us the things that we need to be considering. And one of the things she has brought to us, and it is very, very important to the Pearson organization and GED testing service specifically, is generative artificial intelligence, GAI. And as Anne tells me, I mean, we all know AI has been around with us forever. It's what drives many of our engines for many years. But the big concern right now is the generative artificial intelligence, GAI. Anne was kind enough to provide me a definition there so that I didn't have to try to explain it. But it just means, to me, it's almost like now we have machines that can infer from the information it has. It's like it can almost create something from the information that may be new. In other words, it's capable of generating the text or the images or the media using generative models. And there are lots of feelings and thoughts out there, and you know it, you see it in all the conversations. I will tell you, as an organization, Pearson, we've had lots of conversations and policy guidance and where we are going as an organization. But Anne is doing research and wants to know exactly how you are feeling about this, in your survey, and to learn how we can support you. Simple things like, are you already using it in your classroom? And if you are, how are you using it?
Debbie, this is Anne. I just came off mute.
Yeah.
You didn't have to make me a hostess. That's exactly right. We're really interested to hear from you in this survey what your experiences with it, and also kind of getting ahead of any kind of issues that you might be feeling so that we could hopefully try to address some of those in the future. And so here's the survey link from Debbie. And we have, over 200 responses so far, which are really, it's been very interesting and enlightening to see the responses so far. I can't wait to share them out with you. But we do only have 2 more days until the survey closes. So if you wanted to, I guess we're going to send this deck out, right, Debbie?
Correct. It'll be posted. Yes. It may take us, I'm not sure it's going to be posted in time, Anne, though since we have to send it through our YouTube channel now, it's a little different. So I would urge you to take a look at this link. And for those of you, if you're on this call, you probably received in session, and because it's the same list that receives our invites to Tuesdays for Teachers, you can find your September in session. It was in there, was it not, Anne?
That's how people got to it before, but I'm just going to dig it up here and I'll just put it into the chat for everyone as you're asking.
Perfect. Thanks, Anne. That's great. We really do want to hear from you on this. Okay. All right. And when you open the link, I'm great. I got to see a visual. What should I be looking for? When you open the link, this is the first thing you're going to see. And so obviously you can see it won't take you very long to do it. 12 possible questions on there. And I just like to kind of see a look at what we've got to move through there. Okay. Anne, is there anything else you want to say? Because I'm getting ready to kind of switch gears now.
I found the link. I'll be putting it into the chat right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. For the remainder of the time, before we take your questions, we're going to talk about a new GED testing service partner, With You, With Me. I realize most of you on this phone call, this is probably not news to you. Actually, we thought when we were going to have a September Tuesdays for Teachers and we had to cancel, it may have been more new to you then, but since September, I feel like we've had a couple of different opportunities for many of you to be exposed to our discussion about this new GED testing service partner. So I took it in a little different direction here, but With You, With Me, again, I told you it is our a new partner, and I think it holds great excitement tying us more closely to the workforce, um, in our workforce skills, and particularly to the digital skills, and which I think is how, if we really take a good close look at it, there's some ways you can work this into meeting some of your NRS requirements for IETs. So with you, with me, this is these are the things that are their mantras. They provide free training to the communities, and look at the different communities. If you know a lot about this, just bear with me for those who may still not have heard of our partnership for With You, With Me. This is an organization created and designed by a former Australian military gentleman. And I love to hear him explain it, because he'll say, we have great training in the military, but when we get out, we're not sure what we do with it. Where do we go and what do we do? They understood that there's tremendous need in the digital marketplace for employees. And he has tapped into that opportunity for people who just, number one, you don't know what to do. And it is an opportunity for, as you can see, the different groups that are served with the skills to thrive in the workplace when you understand what your aptitudes and your preferences are. So the reason we partnered with them is to help more learners persist in their journey and by understanding their learning preferences, then to uncover their potential through a variety of free aptitude tests, and also to provide free training to students and their families to get into tech careers within months. As I said, I took it a little differently. I went through their website because I like to see where you go when we say, go to these programs. I Googled With You, With Me, and then you can make a choice. Well, we are looking at our GED graduates and our GED students who are in the pipeline to earn their GED. Obviously, they would be the individuals. I'm an individual, they would sign up. When they sign up, we want you to understand what the tech apprenticeship opportunities are that are offered to the GED grads. And we are also looking at our GED students who are in the pipeline. You would sign up for With You, With Me on the platform. As we said, you'd complete the psychometric and the aptitude tests, and then you would be matched to the tech careers best suited to you. Once you've done that, you would then enter into With You, With Me's 11 accredited digital career pathways and complete approximately 150 hours of self-paced digital training. This is something that is really very advantageous for a lot of people who just don't have the time to sit in your classrooms. As much as we'd like it, they just don't have the time to do it. Okay, so then they gain access, once they've completed that 150 hours of self-paced digital training, they can gain access to a network of leading employers looking to hire GED grads and secure the employment. And you can use the QR codes to access the program that we had put in this particular slide that we had presented at one point. Okay. What I did was ask a friend to go through the profile. So we're going to talk through, and I want you to see what a student gets when they take all of these tests that are there for them once they sign up. There's a culture fit. In other words, what type of group do you work best in? A psychometric assessment, an aptitude assessment, a learning style assessment, and then career matches. So I'm going to take you through what the dashboard looks like when this person went to their testing report and they had completed this battery of tests, which have to be completed before you would be, talked talked through to go into a particular 150 hours of digital training, free digital training. Okay. On the culture fit, this particular person, and I like these, I'm going to give you the definitions of these, but you get this graphic chart that says, here's kind of where you laid out on the spectrum. And I'll explain what are the titles under each one of these, because I know when you look at neuroticism, that gets your attention right away. Conscientiousness, neuroticism, extroversion or introversion, agreeableness, your openness. Those are the areas that it kind of looks at your fit for, where you line up on the spectrum. Culture fit. Then the aptitude. You can see the data points for how this person did in the aptitude test. And these are the categories, the 7 categories. So there's 7 kind of tests. You don't have to do them all at one time. You can do a test, take a break, come back 2 days later. But numerical reasoning or data interpretation, digital symbol coding. When I had looked at some of these titles, and you can see when you do the actual test, they run from left to right, but I knew that was too small for you to read. So I put my own titles in there. But, when I was reading some of these names, I thought digital symbol coding. And when I went through the test, I thought, oh, well, I didn't realize that was the skill you needed to do, symbol coding. I had no understanding about coding on computers. So this has truly been an experience it's been an experience in, quote, always learning, just to look at how they look at these different things and can make determinations from it. Verbal reasoning, language and written composition, spatial, abstract, and recognition memory. That'll be on the profile for the student when they complete the test. In the psychometric assessment, they go ahead and give you first how you came out in it. This person, their archetype is a doer. And you can read some of if you look at the previous stuff, if you look at aptitude, and more importantly, the culture fit, very conscientious person, doesn't have a lot of neuroticism or worried about, how things may or may not go, is an extrovert, is agreeable and open. I'm going to skip through here. You can see with those types of frameworks that they may be listened more to as a doer. Well, there's some great things about being a doer, and you'll see some things that may give you pause if this was you and you were having to pick the kind of workplace environment you're looking for your training. You can see they want to execute and deliver on tasks, projects, and other responsibilities. They're typically conscientious and achievement striving. They're lower than average in neuroticism and open to experience. A high ratio of doers is desirable on a mature team because they kind of drive the engine. Things are in place and they focus. But sometimes there can be a drawback to that. If they are in a management position and they drive, that may not set well with others. So they will give you the pros and cons of the different types of personalities that come out in here. So now, and I apologize for the fuzziness, but I wanted to make it big enough for you to be able to read it when we put it on the screen. I'm going to give you just a few seconds. Just look at the types of things that are considered in the neuroticism range or discussion. That anxiety or anger or depression or self-consciousness or immoderation or vulnerability. If you are open, your openness to experience, look at the kind of terms that this test taker filled in. And then I found it very interesting to look at the degree to which those things were measured. Same thing with conscientiousness. This person kind of blew it out of the park with conscientiousness. how important is it, I guess, or the way the questions were answered gave rise. I found it very interesting to see the amount of cautiousness in the conscientiousness. Then look at extroversion. And, depending on how outgoing or introverted you are makes a big difference in where you think you would best fit in a workplace, or the type of tasks. How many moving parts does the task have? Or is it more straight path, same type of activity day in, day out? We all have preferences. And here's something we talked about learning preferences or learning style. This person's test came out as interpersonal. There are 5 different categories, and we don't need to go into them, but the bottom line is learning preferences and learning styles are very helpful. I am not far enough from the classroom to not remember that you have a day's task in front of you. So learning preferences are nice things for you to know. I also know there are a lot of different tests out there that give you a student's learning style and learning preference. When I first studied into this, my first thought was, this is great and it could be used, but it is naive to think you're going to try to tailor a class of instruction to the different learning styles. You can't do it because you're teaching multiple personalities across different learning levels. Where I thought it would be valuable if I were in the classroom is for that student who may be having difficulty and I can't quite figure out how to get them over the finish line. Well, maybe that, if I go back, maybe learning styles and preferences would give me some insights. So I see it as something that's nice to have, nice to know about, and you might be able to find a use for it. I mean, there are uses for it, there's no doubt about it, but how it fits with you in your classroom, that's for you to decide upon. What I will tell you is that this particular learning preference is under it's included in the GED.com study page. It has the learning preference assessment in there, how to study. So it's never too late to learn about your learning style is what the comment is there. But I just wanted you to know where we had this and where it was marked for students. Also, we have asked some of our teachers, learners and teachers who piloted the preference assessment, and they indicated a positive influence on studying and the likelihood to improve their outcomes. They felt good about it. In other words, it's not a difficult thing to do, and it didn't make people uncomfortable. But these are the things that they said about the learning preference assessment. And the content recommendations, they are based on outcomes data, accessibility, and meeting the learner's preferred style of learning. This is just an example of some of the things we have on our website that may be good for auditory learners. Some of our materials work for multiple learning types of preferences, and that also is something that you as an educator can take a look at and decide if it's for you or your students. They're also encouraged to search for local classes and to use the free materials. So this is important. We want you to know that this is part of what we have on these guidelines here. GED Manager users can see students' learning style in student details. We have added that. If your students are using it, you can find it in GED Manager if you have access to your students there. And it will describe, as you can see, the 7 learning preferences of visuals, kinesthetic, auditory, interpersonal, social or interpersonal, solitary, or verbal, or logical. Okay. Again, letting you know it's available, always bringing new things to you. And we do have a guide for teachers to use learning preferences in the classroom. Some of the things that we say can help you unlock the potential in students with their learning preferences. Now that's the steps, and that tells you a little bit about what the students would see and go through and learn if they signed up and went through that particular phrasing there. All right. here is another part. It also, the last part of the 5 of the things that I had listed in the first slide, it makes career matches. It tells you your personality type. And if you've been around as long as I have, you know that you get those things. There's a lot of them out there. And it was very interesting to this particular test taker when the type that your personality matched to. Look at the differences. This particular student told me I'd had never thought about. I can't imagine how architecture came in there. So it was interesting to see the career matches. And if the student continues to work through from those career matches, they can look and make any choices and then perhaps chart a pathway if they are interested in moving on and considering that tech apprenticeship. So that's the first part of the testing. What I really want to share with you that we're really excited about is the GED Tech Apprenticeship. Some of you may have received the email, and some of your students may have received a Tech Apprenticeship email. We sent it out in the state, in the state of California, because as you can see on this Thursday, we are having the GED Tech Apprenticeship. It's a job fair, October 26th from 12 noon to 3 p.m. And it will be at the Lowe's Hollywood Hotel in Los Angeles. We're very excited about this. It's brought to you, it is for students, and this is what the students saw in an email. You can see who is sponsoring it with me, the testing service in Pearson Publishing. This is what students saw. This was the email that was sent to them. I just had to cut it and chop it in pieces to get it all in one. We are telling them about the benefits of the GED Tech Apprenticeship Job Expo is what we were calling it. Students have signed up using this form and submitted, and our partners in With You, With Me have been calling on the phone, talking to the students who have registered and deciding if this is really, if they're going to come to it. Some of them have gone through and done all of the testing for it. And by doing all of the testing, that means we were able to line up some of them for interviews in the digital tech apprenticeship arena. So I wanted you to know about this because we expect this to be successful, and we hope there will be more to come in other areas. Here's what we know so far. The Tech Apprenticeship Job Expo or Job Fair, we have over 180 students in the Los Angeles area registered. Many of them have been, the With You, With Me team has reached out to them individually to cite their interest and their possible interest in completing the battery of tests so that they could be more appropriately fitted for the employers. And we know that a number of them will have on-site, at least 20 who have already dedicated. And of that 180, we'll see more than that on Thursday in Los Angeles. And for those that didn't want to go through a direct interview and complete it, they're going to have the opportunity for some on-site conversations, of the areas that are interested with them. We'll tell you that one of our participating employers who has over 200 technology openings is the company Taller. And when I told you that this has been an always learning experience for us, as is our code and what we live by at Pearson and GED Testing Service, I had no idea that so many agencies, everybody's got the digital footprint, and they need people to do all these different jobs in the digital technology world. I didn't understand that so many major corporations don't do their own, but outsource finding the digital talent to companies like Taller. So it's been a very interesting trip for me working with this. And because I have the privilege of managing California, I was very engaged with what they were doing out there for this event on Thursday. So with that said, I have told you everything I was intending to talk about, and we still have a few minutes left for questions and answers. The one thing I would like is to make sure you know how to communicate with us either at help@ged.com, or there's my address, and you have your own state relationship managers. Happy to share those names and email addresses if you need. And at this time, I would ask any of you, if you would like to unmute and ask questions, get prepared. And right now, I'd like to go back to Anne and to Jeannie to find out if there's anything in the chat that I need to respond to. Jeannie, I'll go to you first.
I don't see anything right now.
And that's
Maybe
fine.
somebody will write to.
Yep, that's fine.
I
And
don't see anything either. I put in the link for the Survey Monkey,
okay,
and so thanked everyone ahead of time.
that's great. Ladies and gentlemen on the call, are there any questions you would like to ask us or comments? Well, I'm certainly not going to wait as long as a classroom sitting waiting for the college professor. I'm not going to hold you to the last 10 minutes. What I would like to say is thank you very much for spending the hour and a half with me. Please, if you didn't feel you got what you needed in our poll, please look in session on November 15th. That's when our next, I think it's November 15th, our next in session. And you can respond there also. Susan and I want you to respond so that when we get on our phone call in December, we will be able to say, okay, here's your next 3 sessions. Here's what we learned. Here's where we're thinking to go. And we still have time to refine beyond for the remainder of the year.
Debbie,
yes.
there is one question that's just come into the chat.
All right.
Asking how do the students get connected to with me?
They can go directly to the website. You know, I think it's too late for this particular job fair, but just like I showed you on the slide, that is exactly what it looks like. You just Google in with me, and it'll ask if you want to log in or sign in.
And also to add to that, if they wanted to go to the learning styles assessment that you showed of image of, where they could find out their kind of learning style, that is within the student portal. So they would go into their student account, and then the study page that Debbie's going to show you is in there. That's in their student account under the study page.
Right there, if they go to study and drop down the menu there, drop down that page, it's going to be right there for them for just the learning preference assessment. But I think you'll find it very simple to go to with me. Most of us in GED have gone and enrolled and done the test and done the things we could do. And I found it a very easy process.
Yep. That's the last question.
All right. Well, guys, thank you very much. And I appreciate your time. And as always, please call on us. This will be recorded and put up, and we look forward to hearing from you. Susan and I are really excited about the opportunity to kind of reframe. It's been a long time since we've done surveys and things to kind of make sure we had the right direction we were going. So we look forward to your participation. And with that happy note, I will turn off the recording and I will say thank you very much. Nice to talk with you. Bye-bye.